Okay, so welcome to this little interview backslash discussion. In this talk, I want to talk about the seminar as a whole, the individual journey through it with you, and of course about our participants that were Gregor, Elena, Nora, and Juliet, and me, basically.
Exactly. Our topic was fertilizer, so that was what we had to work on during these 4 past months. And I think we actually need a quick recap on what Ways of Knowing actually is and what we had to do in the seminar.
Yeah, well, as a whole, I think we can all agree on that the seminar was filled with different topics and approaches, but that the core were definitely the methods with which you can actually produce scientific knowledge in the first place. And that was probably the most important lesson you could draw from it.
Yeah, I am very thrilled to hear about the thoughts of our participants, and let's directly dive into the positive and what we enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
One of the things I really liked about Ways of Knowing class is that we could discuss and share our ideas every week within a small group. This helped me a lot because I could track down my thoughts and actually discuss some important things and reflect on the topic as well. Moreover, it actually helped me to write down my diaries and output as well. And discussion of the topic with the group mates helped me to look at the fertilizer under different angles every time, and it actually brought up some new questions as well.
Hi, I will be talking about the positives and what I actually feel like I enjoyed during the seminar. And I think one of the big main topics that I didn't already talk about is, as simple as it may sound, simply learning about methods. I knew there were quite a few ways to analyze data, but I didn't know exactly how the methods were called, what they consisted of, how I could use them in order to do my research. And now I feel like I will be able to go into another seminar or course or anything and just know where to start, know how to use my data, know how to analyze stuff, know in what way I can use them. And I think that's very enjoyable to me. And of course, besides just talking with people and being able to gain different insights into a topic, I think that was one of my main highlights of the seminar. So yeah, there you go.
Hi, I really like the thing we had this module in the first semester, to be able to try as many methods by your own as possible, which help you to get into researching methods. And it was nice to change the thing every week to have a new thing to work on or new project to work on, which make it really interesting over the whole semester.
Hello there. I'd like to tell you now what I liked about the course. Talking about WoK, of course. Maybe let's just begin with the overall setup, because I think being sorted into groups with strangers is already a challenge, especially at the beginning of your university career when you're not maybe accustomed to working in groups that much, and then you're being forced down this strange topic. I think every group really had an everyday object that you never really think about that closely, neither about the implications nor the use. At least that's what it was like for me. So it was basically the same starting position for everyone. And I don't mean the being forced the topic, I don't mean it in any negative way. I think it's a really interesting approach to start your seminar when you're just thrown into the cold water with this weird topic with new people, and you really have to make it work. Otherwise it can get pretty difficult. What I also really liked was the structure of the seminar, because of course you learn a lot about the methods, but I think it also really offers space for other skills that can be developed, because you can be so free in your outputs. Basically, you can do something about topic a topic that is only connected with the topic you've got. In my case, it was fertilizer and vertical farming, for example. So you can really stretch your imagination a bit. And we did a lot of stuff with multimedia, and I think I learned a lot about that. And I think other courses don't offer that environment where you can do that. And it's definitely something unique about how this was set up, in my opinion.
I really enjoyed just gaining a wider understanding for methods in general, and also building up a bigger set of methods that I can choose from when conducting future research. When facing a problem, I am now more aware of the opportunities I have method-wise, and can also be more systematic in solving these problems. And the way of problem solving is now more specifically suited for a certain problem, and there's less application of maybe semi-fitting methods for a certain issue. And when wanting to explore a bigger topic without a specific problem, it will now also be way easier to navigate within a discourse, knowing my opportunities and also knowing my methodological abilities. And I think the course was also just a really great frame for kind of having to engage with methods that maybe we wouldn't have chosen ourselves and maybe even would have avoided in the future in our studies. But I think that was a great surrounding for realizing each method's value now. And if we had a little bit more time left, I would just love to go more into depth with other methods.
Okay, I actually very much agree with what was said. I found it very interesting to learn about different methods. I didn't know this many methods existed, so that was a good start. And I think I learned a lot. And what I actually liked to do too was to work with others. It was always very enjoyable to be able to connect with the group, and I think we did a pretty good job as a group. We always tried to understand what the others were working on and what we were doing, and we tried to catch up every second week, I would say. So that was great. I liked it. What about you?
Yeah, the emphasis is on we tried, but I liked the group work too. But what I struggled with a bit was more of the whole approach of the seminar, because it's a very theoretical one, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just that I think I'm more of the practical person in that case. So, but the thing that saved me, of course, were the outputs, where you could transform your theoretical stuff into an actual project. And so that kind of helped.
Yeah, that's very true. But those were the good times. What about when we struggled, when we didn't find any data, when we struggled with the word fertilizer? What happens then?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. Like, what happens when you accidentally delete your research question or something like that?
Let's dive into the videos and see what our participants have to say about this.
I will now talk about the negatives, and I think I will focus on one specific method I consider as failed, for myself at least. So it was the method counting, where I decided to take some numbers, to analyze them, and then to put them down into a graph with the coding language Python that we have been learning during the first semester. So I would do my graph with Python, and I think it's a good idea. I still think it is a good idea. However, it was way too hard to do on my own, at least. So on this method, I was really happy to have an assistant who could help me. But I know that on my own, I would not have been able to do it. And I had to end up changing numbers, rounding them up. So my result would actually not be as exact as it should have been. So, of course, I think that's just, for me at least, I consider this output as failed. However, it still was an enjoyable experience, and I think I learned quite a lot by failing too. So, yeah.
This class required time management and self-discipline, and I really liked it. However, sometimes I got results I didn't expect. For example, interviewing my part. It wasn't that good because I didn't expect to get the results I got, and I know for sure I would do some things differently. However, the discussion with the classmates actually helped me to understand that it's okay to get the results you don't expect, and sometimes, yeah, things just go differently. That's just life. And I also realized I could have broadened my topic too late because I'm not really interested in fertilizer, but I could look at that under different angles and it would be okay.
Okay, so now let's talk about the bad and the ugly, which for me, I think was very much had to do with motivational struggles sometimes and the evaluation of personal priorities. That may be a bit cryptic, so I'm gonna explain that for you. So, well, this is definitely one of the more important courses we're gonna take because it's builds the core of our study in Studium Individuale. And I wasn't always very aware of that, I have to admit it. You definitely have to see that your most important courses don't get lost in these overlapping deadlines and tasks. And that was a struggle for me, especially because I'm really bad at managing such stuff. Yeah, so, but of course you could argue that you should always lay the focus on what interests you the most, but I think there's also some other realities you have to take into account there. The second point for me would probably be that you don't have to narrow down too much, especially if you struggle with your topic. And I think the topics were designed to make you struggle a bit, because who actually deeply thinks about fertilizers often? I certainly don't. But an easy way out of there is definitely widening your gaze on the topic, maybe writing to Camilla if it's necessary, and just find something that's somehow related to your topic. It needn't be even closely, but then you always have a new perspective. For me, with fertilizer, it was, I think, explosives, because you can create explosives with certain parts of fertilizer. That was pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think I can definitely relate to that. I already knew beforehand that time management was not one of my strengths. And I think you can see that with my output dates, because none of them was on time. So, well, lesson learned, I guess, and that's a thing I have to improve upon. But what were your struggles? I'd like to hear.
Well, time management was a struggle for me too, indeed, especially considering the fact that we had a lot of other things to do for other seminars. So I definitely struggled with time always. And I think none of my outputs were handed in on time. But I guess I learned a lot, so that's okay. And I think another struggle was simply the topic. I didn't see in a broader view in the beginning, so it was very hard for me to focus on the word, which was fertilizer for our group. And I never found a research question until I understood that I could actually look in a broader view and see something more than just the word fertilizer.
Yeah, that's definitely relatable.
Yeah.
But what also helped me, well, kind of helped me once, was having a research assistant, because there's a person you can also rely on a bit and ask questions. How did you feel about that?
I actually very much enjoyed having a research assistant, but also being one. That was very funny. And I think especially if you understand, if you know the person with whom you're working a bit, I think it can be a very enjoyable experience. And we should look at what our participants have to say about that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed being an assistant as well as having an assistant when completing my output. I think it's much easier to grasp a topic or the concept of a topic when you have someone to talk to and engage with and discuss the methods with, and also discuss things like your research question, for example. I think it's also helpful to verbalize an issue when you're stuck or just unsure about something, because you're in a way forced to summarize your problem in a way that makes it understandable for someone else. And then either the person maybe has some great advice for you, or the verbalization itself helps you understand where you might have to put in more work or adapt your research question or just change a minor detail, for example. When you are working together with someone and have to distribute the task, you're also required to break the whole research idea up into smaller tasks And this way the project is more structured, and you're also maybe able to implement that in your approach afterwards by yourself as well.
Okay, we're slowly drawing to a close here, but we actually did not really get into depth about our core position or problem here, which are the methods. I'd like to know from you, what were your favorite ones? I know that are basic questions, but since they were the most important thing, I guess we can just ask.
I think one of my favorite methods was looking, actually. First of all, because we did it as a group, so that was very enjoyable. And secondly, because we just went creative. We basically decided to observe the growth of grass with fertilizer in one part and without fertilizer in the other part. And we filmed the whole process, so we ended up with a very cool time lapse. And the whole process was just creative and enjoyable, and yeah, I think I very much liked that.
Except that we did not get the result we wanted, but yeah, I agree.
Yes, that's very true. But I think that's what we learned too. We learned that a result that we did not expect was still a valid result. So
yeah, true.
That was good.
I definitely agree with you. Looking was definitely the most fun output group-wise. But I think the one that was that interested me the most was arguing, where I had a debate with guys out of the seminar about vertical farming. That's a new way to do agriculture, basically. So that was definitely the topic that really mesmerized me the most. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I actually enjoyed being an assistant on this one. It was very fun, especially that we could include your whole wiki. That was very funny too. And I think you did a very good job.
Making me blush.
This class actually helped me to understand how to view an object from different angles, using different methods. I never actually expected to use so many within one class. That was new to me, I think. And I really enjoyed the fact that we could dive into one method within 1 or 2 weeks. However, I'm not sure that, for example, describing should be a 2-week assignment, because it seems to be much more work and it requires more energy, I think. There are some things that I would definitely do differently. However, realizing right now that I did things how I knew I could do, and yeah, I think that is a learning process.
My two favorite methods were describing and arguing. I think that describing and ethnographic research in general is such a great way to approach social phenomena, as it's not theory-based in the first place, but you actually observe and describe the behavior linked to the topic in question. Also, ethnographic research is so versatile in the amount of structure you can put into the process, so that it can serve as a really small part of your research, but also could take up a much bigger and more important part. Being honest, describing as a method is such a big project that it was quite an intensive work experience, so I would enjoy to have a little bit more time with it in order to maybe back up our research or our description with more theory to be able to produce more grounded insights. I would also enjoy drifting a little bit further away from our object itself and maybe explore topics linked to fertilizer using describing as a method, just to explore it a little bit more. I also really enjoyed arguing, and I would love to spend more time engaging with the ideas behind the practical applications of argumentative structures. I think it's really central and extremely essential for what we do and learn on a daily basis in university, and just really want to incorporate the ideas and structures in a way that I will automatically apply them in the future. I also think that because it's so central for academic and also non-academic discourse, it can be utilized in pretty much any context. So if we had more time, I would try to apply it actively in different contexts. First of all, for me and my increase in knowledge and skill, but I also think that arguing is essential for the effective delivery of any knowledge pretty much. So I think that wherever you apply it, even if you try to incorporate it more as a thought process for yourself, the results will be more complex and profound as well. So I would also love to try out different ways in which this method could be applied, how one could use it in an artistic manner, for example, or how you could adapt the method so you can use it for other creative processes or just as a source of inspiration even.
Hello, I now wanted to look at our output, which was looking, as you probably heard, we all liked, because it was a multimedia production. So we came up with the idea of looking some plants growing. As you see, probably we had this two tops pots, one with and one without fertilizer to grow grass inside. And I recorded it in an empty room in my flat for a whole week. So my camera was able to make like a time, like one video of 8 hours in total in one. And I had to redo it like all 8 hours. So I was getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning to do this process again, or restart this process to came up with a whole week of footage, and was some work to prepare this because like I need a light and the room, just two pots and stuff. So, but the output at the end was different than I expected. We thought it would be the other way around. Like if you see probably on the left, the one without fertilizer is growing a bit better than the one with fertilizer. So why? You can't say why, but it's at the end it's nice to have like even whether you don't expect to be and being happy with this.
But we actually did not really get into depth about our core position or problem here, which are the methods. I'd like to know from you, what were your favorite ones? I know that are basic questions, but since they were the most important thing, I guess we can just ask.
I think one of my favorite methods was looking, actually. First of all, because we did it as a group, so that was very enjoyable. And secondly, because we just went creative. We basically decided to observe the growth of grass with fertilizer in one pot and without fertilizer in the other pot. And we filmed the whole process, so we ended up with a very cool time lapse. And the whole process was just creative and enjoyable, and yeah, I think I very much liked that.
Except that we did not get the result we wanted, but yeah, I agree.
Yes, that's very true. But I think that's what we learned too. We learned that a result that we did not expect was still a valid result. So
yeah, true.
That was good.
I definitely agree with you. Looking was definitely the most fun output group-wise. But I think the one that was that interested me the most was arguing, where I had a debate with guys out of the seminar about vertical farming. That's a new way to do agriculture, basically. So that was definitely the topic that really mesmerized me the most. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I actually enjoyed being an assistant on this one. It was very fun, especially that we could include your whole wiki. That was very funny too. And I think you did a very good job.
Making me blush.